Welcome to this episode of At This Time. And I want to talk to you about the date, October the 21st, 1805. The great power in Europe at the time was Napoleon. He held almost all of Europe within his grip, all but England, that was. And he was determined to invade England. He sent his French Admiral Villeneuve and the French fleet to the Caribbean to wrap up and to get all the other ships of the French Navy and bring them back to a place in Spain called Cadiz, or the Cape of Trafalgar. Now that name should stand out to you because Lord Nelson is so identified with the Battle of Trafalgar. In fact, as the French admiral brought the French fleet back to Spain, he meets up with the Spanish fleet, and there they are off the Cape of Trafalgar, not knowing that Lord Nelson was just 50 miles away waiting on them. They sail out because Napoleon wanted them to go and break the British blockade of the British island. But he is intercepted by Lord Nelson. In fact, Nelson does something very unusual. He puts his ships in two lines. He has about 27 ships to the French and the Spanish 33 ships. He's outgunned. He has less in number, but he is spectacular. He is genius in the attack that he's about to make. He puts them in parallel lines, and they sail straight into the single line of the French and the Spanish fleet. Breaks them into three different units. They circle up and they take the French flagship. And there they just begin to unload on that flagship. All the other ships of the French and the Spanish fleet are in disarray. They don't know what to do. In the middle of that battle, the Battle of Trafalgar, Lord Nelson is wounded and is dying. And eventually dies, but he wins that very spectacular sea battle. He did something right before they attacked that really lifted the spirits of all of the men in the British Navy. He had his signal man go out and signal to all the rest of the English fleet these words: "England expects every man to do his duty." Now, what that did was this. The rest of the British Navy was so moved that just moments before this very critical battle, that Lord Nelson would think of them and would send them a word to encourage them, that it is said that they rose to this unusual challenge to defeat the Navy of Napoleon and the Navy of Spain, so that from that day on, for 100 years, England was never challenged at sea again. Well, listen, there's a word that God has sent to you. It's His signal to you that in the midst of the battles of life, Psalm 119, 130 says this: "The entrance of thy word brings light." So today, God has a word for you, and that word will lift you and encourage you and instruct you and guide you. All of that happened at this time.